now we have the Thomas the Tank Engine category, which is the most random one out of the bunch. But then again, it's like what I said in the trailer, why not? So let's begin. Harry Humble, would you classify Thomas and the Magic Railroad to be non-canon? Isn't it already confirmed that the film's non-canon? Because, when the show reintroduced Diesel 10, they never really brought up the events that happened there. Well, if there isn't an official source confirming it, then yes, I consider the movie to be non-canon. It felt more like it was trying to be based more on the Shining Time TV show rather than a movie solely focused on the Thomas universe. Matthew Zechiel, favorite Thomas and the Tank Engine episode? Oh geez, I don't know if I have a favorite. There's a lot of episodes I enjoyed watching from the old seasons, but I don't know if I can narrow it down to a top favorite, at least right now. So, basically, I enjoyed most of the episodes from the first 4 seasons of the show. Jeremy Krane, who's the best narrator, Ringo Starr or George Carlin? Ooh, that's a tough one, since they're both good in their own styles. Well, if I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably have to pick George Carlin. I mean, Ringo's narration is fine. It's a little more casual, but I kind of like George Carlin better because he seems to put in a lot more energy in voicing the characters and tries to give them their own unique voices and such. And speaking of which, there is a collection of videos that someone made that combines the Thomas clips mixed in with some of George Carlin's more raunchy stand-up comedy. And it's pretty hilarious just how well they mesh together. Tanooki Racoony Studios, what are your thoughts on Thomas' Big World, Big Adventure? Yes, that new movie, well, okay, I would say it was new back then, but it's already been out, but yeah, I haven't seen it yet. It does kind of look interesting, Thomas traveling around the world, so I don't know, maybe I'll try and watch it one day. StupidStarSonic, sexiest character. I'm noticing a trend with this guy. I'm kind of surprised he didn't ask me this in the MLP category. So for Thomas, I don't know, old slow coach. I mean, just look at the size of her buffers, eh? And next one, old episodes or new episodes? I don't know, I haven't seen enough of the newer episodes to say which one is better. So I guess I prefer some of the older episodes, but I'm fine with some of the CGI ones. At least the ones I've seen, anyway. Next one, favorite character and why? Well, I always did like Harvey. Seeing a train combined with a crane always looked cool to me. I did like Diesel 10, mostly how he was portrayed in the Magic Railroad movie. Sneaky Brooklyn-talking guy with a mechanical appendage that has a mind of its own, which was entertaining. It does suck that in the TV show those characteristics were removed and kind of just made him a bit generic, so oh well. Birds of Destiny, should they have a reboot? Isn't there already a reboot with the newer seasons? I think I've heard something about that, like, oh, after Big World, Big Adventure, it's a reboot. Or something, I don't know. I haven't been keeping track with the newer episodes. And next question, do you enjoy the theme song? Well, it depends on which version. The new song they have, they're 2 day, 4 day, 60 day, yeah, that's okay. But the older, more classic tune I enjoy the most. I like that better. It's a little more nostalgic to me, even though nowadays it's been memeified, basically. Catholiccontriversy, do you have the Thomas track playsets and make a giant track that filled the living room? Yeah, I still have some of my old wooden railway Thomas tracks and sets. I used to collect the trains a lot until they eventually stopped. A friend of mine told me that their current models have gotten really cheap with the model and mostly with the paint designs and such. And I actually remember seeing them at Toys R Us back when it used to be in business. That kind of details that they have back when. And I thought at first it was like a one-and-done deal. Like, oh, cool, it's a special little pad to make them look like really old-fashioned trains and whatnot. But nope, apparently that's Wooden Railway's current line of merchandise, last I checked. Man, they really suffered some budget cuts over there. Dnator, how much was Thomas the Tank Engine a part of your childhood? Well, Thomas was a pretty big part of my childhood. I lived far away from usual train stations, so seeing them on screen and moved around always felt very otherworldly to my younger self, as I was more used to just running around in cars. And when it came to not playing video games, the toys that I played the most was mostly the Wooden Railway Thomas toys that I have. Rainbow Optimus, do you prefer old traditional Thomas or the new CGI Thomas? Well, if I was younger, I would most likely say, traditional rules, CGI sucks, wah! but nowadays I'm more of a casual Thomas fan, so I'm fine with both styles. they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Miniature sets in traditional style always felt like a time capsule, a nice way to see all the effort put into making these sets, props, and engines, which is something nowadays that technique has been largely abandoned in most media, outside of stop-motion films. And the CGI series, it's not, high-quality Avengers Endgame CGI stuff or whatnot, but they do make the engines and humans and animal characters a lot more lively, give them actual movement, and the faces of the trains actually have more facial expressions so that they can actually move their mouths up and down for a change. So, yeah, they're nice. Next question. If you were magically transported to the Island of Sodor for one day, what would you do? If I was somehow transported to the Island of Sodor, I'd probably ride around on Toby, hanging out at Tidman's sheds, draw a silly mustache on Diesel or some other character, and visit the small railway engines. And I'm sure I could think of some other ideas, but that's all I can think of right now. Mr. Doomman1000, favorite season of Thomas? Favorite seasons. Well, I like most of the older ones, mostly the first 5 or something. Yeah, around first 5. As for the CGI series, I've only seen pretty much random episodes from random seasons, so I really don't have much to say on which particular season during that period is my favorite. I also find it interesting that season 12 it gets very interesting with the visual point of view, as it's the last season to feature the traditional style of the show, but also features some CGI for the faces of the trains and human characters. It's a pretty weird in-between moment with the show where they transfer from the old style to the more current style. LJ Productions, favorite or least favorite Thomas character? Oh man, so many favorites. Let's see, of the more of the main characters, there's Thomas, Edward, Henry, and Toby. Salty is a cool character, and later on I started liking and relating to Cranky, this guy who stays up working hard all day and barely getting any rest. I actually like his American voice actor better than the British one in the CGI series. It's kind of fun and amusing hearing him have this sort of a Brooklyn accent, yeah, I'm Cranky and I'm from Boston. You have no idea how much shit I have to put up with these tank engines. When I started watching the CGI episodes more often, I was starting to like Paxton. This friendly Diesel can be clumsy at times, but not that stupid, so I kind of see him as like a character similar to like Derpy or Goofy in that way. Other characters, I do like some of the more forgotten characters, like Caroline, that old-fashioned car, and I mostly like some of the other design of the other characters, like Fergus and Thumper. I also kind of liked Neville, but yeah, they seem to have been largely forgotten these days. As for my least favorite, all I can think of is, Bursford, that blue crane from Beyond Sodor movie. It just seemed like a very pointless character to me. And next one. Any thoughts on the current direction of the series, from Big World, Big Adventure, and onwards? I don't know, I think I might have only seen 1 or 2 episodes from the current seasons and whatnot, but I don't know, I don't really have much to say on that, because I haven't really seen a lot of them, like the current episode, so I can't really say much of a thorough opinion on that. Mr. X50, favorite Thomas villain? As I mentioned before, I enjoyed Diesel 10's villainy in a Magic Railroad and such. That said, I most likely would have liked P.T. Boomer if he wasn't cut from the movie. In the alternate chase scene in the movie shows just how crazy and demented he is in Destroy Lady, and I do like those crazy characters. I also found Sailor John to be an interesting villain, especially when he's voiced by the late John Hurt, but other than that, that's all I can think of for my favorite Thomas villains. Callum Sparrow, worst episode of the Thomas series, both from the classic and modern eras. Yeah, well, the episode I can remember not liking from the old series was Middle Engine. I don't know why, I guess I always felt that structure wasn't that good or something. Other than that, I know that some of the last couple of seasons before Season 12 become very repetitive on the 3-act structure. Like, an example of this is, Thomas is pulling a heavy load of trucks. He goes by 3 friends, asking if they can help him, and Thomas says, "No, I can do this on my own." Then the heavy load of trucks breaks away and crashes into something. Then Sir Topham Hatt gives him the whole, "You have caused confusion and delay." Then Thomas goes back to ask his friends for help, and they help each other, and yada yada. That kind of repetitiveness, so it's best to not binge watch the show, as some episodes start to become the same thing over and over and over again. As for modern eras, yeah, haven't seen that many that I consider to be bad. Most of them were like okay or just enjoyable. But yeah, I've got lucky and not seen any terrible episodes from the CGI series, I guess. And next one, I think it's yeah. Your thoughts on fan-made Thomas films, specifically Tobias and the Half Pariah and Shed 17. Well, I have watched Shed 17. Definitely a very disturbing fan film that takes the idea of humans being morphed and stretched into these trained bodies. It's almost like someone took a random Thomas creepypasta and just made it into a documentary film. I've heard there are follow-ups to it made by the same guy, but I haven't really seen them. As for Tobias, I think I saw a random clip from it, and I was mostly left confused. It was mostly the climax scene, where, oh, something about Toby is the chosen one, and Duck is a villain for some reason. I don't know, I'm sure if I'd seen the film from the beginning, then I wouldn't be that confused. Chuck Yoshi 64, how many Thomas the Tank Engine toys did you collect in your life? Quite a bit. The one brand line of merchandise that I collected the most was mostly the wooden railway toys. So yeah, not the actual toys that were more accurate to the show, but the more wooden ones made to look like the characters. Then again, for what they were, the paint job for them was pretty good back then. Okay, these last couple of questions are all by the same guy, but seeing as how I barely got any Thomas-related questions for this marathon, I'm just gonna cheat and answer them all anyway. So, that guy! Yeah. When did you first watch Thomas and Friends? Now, the furthest back I can remember was seeing the Thomas and Friends for the first time with an old VHS tape that had some of the first couple of episodes of the show. Then I later started collecting some of the other Thomas VHS tapes for a while until I eventually stopped. Next one, what is your favorite Thomas movie? My favorite Thomas movie that they've made so far is The Adventure Begins, outside from obvious nostalgia. It is a nice retelling of the older episodes and seeing it as a character growth film. I already reviewed the film and whatnot, so you can go ahead and watch that if you haven't seen it. Next one, what is your least favorite Thomas movie? Let's see, the one that I can think of I didn't care for that much is Misty Island Adventure. That seems to be an obvious pick because I've seen a lot of other Thomas fans that have reviewed it and consider the film to be the worst out of the bunch. So yeah, kind of an obvious pick there. Next one. Do you think Thomas and the Magic Railroad could have been better if it was the director's cut? I think I already said this in my Forgotten Media episode covering the director's cut, saying something like, well, even if that version was made, it would be good, but, you know, not the most epic or award-winning film ever, but at least the context and flow would be better. So yeah, I kinda already answered your question years ago. Next one. Which color does Thomas look good in, blue or green? Yeah, I think he looks better in blue. And the final one. Did you ever read the Railway series? Ah, yes, I have read the original Railway book series, which is what the TV show is based off of when it started, before becoming its own thing. The artwork is very nice in the books. There are some interesting elements that are different from the show, like the time Henry was painted blue for a while, before being painted green again. First time I saw this, Blue Henry, I actually thought it was Edward, and I later found out that a lot of people had a more different confusion where they thought the Blue Henry looked more like Gordon. And because of that, that was pretty much the reason why Henry was painted green again. As for what my favorite exclusive story that has been adapted into the TV show, I think I like the Mountain Railway stories. I kind of find it cool seeing these trains made specifically for climbing mountains. And even though they haven't showed up in the show, it is kind of odd seeing that they have at least a small handful of merchandise. And yeah, that was all the questions related to Thomas the Tank Engine. Now all that's left is the big one, the big entertainment category. That is coming. Eventually. When I have more time on my hands. I'm still trying to contain motivation to video making